even with an off day for both the Mets and the Yankees, even with both teams playing well, the main topic continues to be Juan Soto. Jim, I was encouraged by seeing Soto do the Soto shuffle yesterday. I know some people maybe don't think that's a big deal. I do. What would you take away from Soto's at-bats?
I wish I was a little more optimistic about it. I didn't really like his at-bats yesterday. You know, I know Carlos Mendoza had some optimism afterwards just about his stance and kind of getting into his legs and, you know, just kind of getting back to hopefully what they think will be, you know, a run for him to go on. But, I mean, just soft contact and swinging through pitches and looking lost behind in the count all the time, which it seems like he's been there a lot, was overall concerning. And you know, I think these like rollover 3-1, 3 unassisted plays to me. The swing looked long too, which we're not accustomed to seeing. And you know, to me, he's been really passive. This number we talked about on the post game yesterday, his swings versus fastballs, the number of strikes. In at bats that throw first pitch strikes, 89 have been fastballs. He's only swung at 35 of them. Breaking balls, it's not very good either, which I understand. You're not going to swing first pitch breaking ball, but fastballs, he's taking so many of them. It's about it's like 8 or 9% less in terms of the swings that he's had in first pitch fastballs right now. You know what he is with his career on his first pitch? When he puts it in play, he's a .434 batting average guy. It's well over 400 at bats. The OPS of 1250. Like, that's one of his best pitch counts, and he's not taking, I mean, he's not swinging at that pitch nearly enough. First pitch fastballs, too. So, for me, there's got to be more aggressive in that count in particular, and I think his numbers would go up automatically.
Yeah, I think he needs to be more aggressive in general, Jim. And it's interesting because I think early this season, it was very clear that Juan Soto was getting unlucky. And I came on this show, guys, and I said, don't worry, Juan Soto will be fine. This is really just a guy running into some luck. Maybe a bit of that transition hurting him a little bit from team to team. But mostly, he just wasn't being fortunate on balls in play. That has changed. From opening day until May 15th, guys, his expected slugging percentage was .616. By the way, May 15th, the next day, was the start of the Subway Series. Then he goes to Boston with the hustle issues and all that. Anyway, since that time, since May 15th, .404 expected slugging. So it has dropped more than 200 points. He's not getting unlucky anymore. The at-bats, Jim, as he just broke down for us very clearly, are not the same as they were. That, to me, is troubling. Now, I'm not saying that Juan Soto is all of a sudden a bad player. He is clearly one of the most talented hitters in the league, and I do believe he will break out of this at some point, but he seems further away from that now than he did a month ago.
Yeah, which is shocking because I thought going into the Subway Series that would be the launching point for the real Juan Soto to come back. I still am very confident in him. Look, I mean, I'm trying to support Soto here for a while. Slow start to the year, maybe some bad luck. It's obviously gotten worse. Laura, so much so that people are booing him now. Do you think the boos from yesterday can help motivate Juan Soto?
I do not think Juan Soto needs any motivation. I don't think he's going there going like, oh, I have a $765 million contract. Let me not be good right now. He has all the motivation he needs. The issue is right now we're looking at something psychological and we're looking at something physical. Mendoza kind of pointed it out yesterday when he said, oh, you know, his bottom half is looking better today, which indicates to me that what he's seeing in the batter's box from Soto is not the Juan Soto that he necessarily expected recently. And to speak to Tony's stats, you are definitely seeing that in the quality of his at-bats. But then you look at the psychological, and I think we all took it for granted. Oh, he did really well in New York last year. He shone really brightly under these really bright lights. But the fact of the matter is that was without this contract. And this is a huge onus right now. We forget sometimes, because he is so talented, that this kid is just 26 years old. And so when you have all of this pressure, when you have people basically dissecting every single thing that you do, did he hustle? Does he like his teammates? Does he like his new environment? Why did he come to the Mets? And all of this is percolating around you at all times. That is going to affect a player. He's human. We sometimes forget that. Because he's so great at what he does, he's still a human being.
Part human. He's part human, part animal. Juan Soto's a beast. It's coming sooner than later. Hang in there.
We mentioned Juan Soto before. We know that he's having a quiet start to his Mets tenure. Over his past 20 games, he's just 12 for 72 with a .635 OPS. Keith, how would you assess Soto's approach to the season?
Yeah, I mean, we're all kind of learning what Juan Soto is about right now. I mean, everybody, coaches, managers, front office, media people, and Soto's doing the same with us. It's a new thing. I mean, he was kind of living life, you know, in an apartment, 1-year leases here in San Diego, Yankees. And I think he signed that 15-year mortgage and went, okay, this is like kind of a real serious thing. This is a long-term deal. And it's all part of the transition process for him. I'm not putting too much stock in his struggle. I don't know anybody on the planet that can handle what he's handling, because he's still, at times, as Laura said, some of the most unlucky hits we've seen. And then we've seen a lot of this, which is the cheap little ground out that's not been happening for the Mets in spots that they want it. The big hit, the big line drive comes with nobody on, but the little ground out comes with guys on base. It's only a matter of time. Look at his baseball savant page. See how hard he's hitting the ball in general. It's still worlds better than most people in the game. And again, I think the Mets are kind of like, we have no idea why it's happening the way it's happening. We're seeing a little more of the Soto shuffle. We saw it yesterday. He'll get more comfortable. He has 15 years to get comfortable. And the nice thing is that the Mets are 12 games over 500 with an below average production offensively from their best player.
Yeah, and there's, a transition period when you're going to a new team. You can only expect him to settle in at some point. And yes, if they weren't winning games, then I think this would be highlighted a little more. But he just mentioned the Soto shuffle, Laura. We've seen Soto try to show flashes of his swagger recently. Do you think his struggles are mental, physical, or both?
I think it's a little bit of both. Yeah. I mean, you talk about the mental aspect. You're like, well, he played in New York last year and he's always kind of like risen to the occasion. Yeah, but there is a huge onus that comes with the $765 million contract. And I do think that, when you go in there and suddenly you're having these struggles and you're getting these unlucky non-hits, that can get into your head a little bit. And there is pressure there. And the kid is still 26 years old. I mean, we forget because he's been in Major League Baseball for so long, but he's still young, and having all these eyes on him and being booed mercilessly and going back to the Bronx, it's a lot for anyone to handle, but especially someone that young. In terms of the physical, there have been scouts who mentioned that he does look a little bit different in the box. Carlos Mendoza was saying yesterday, well, the bottom half of his body, it looked good. It looked better than it had been previous days. So there is something mechanical possibly that is also going on with the swing, and kind of one feeds into the other. The psychological feeds into the physical and vice versa. But we're talking about Juan Soto. He will eventually figure it out. He's too good of a player not to.
Definitely. Let's switch gears to the starting rotation. So the Mets starting rotation had a solid week at limiting runs, though they weren't exactly dominant. Keith, what's your assessment of the staff's performance this past week?
Yeah, I mean, I think Griffin Canning wants to start against the White Sox back, no doubt about that. But I just am kind of blown away still by the performances that I'm seeing from guys like even Canning against the Dodgers as he started before that rainout. What Clay Holmes has been able to do. Kodai Senga is still, he's an ace. I don't think he's totally pitched like an ace yet. His ERA numbers, I think, are first or second best in the National League, so he's performed that way. But I think all of us, just by watching, can say we haven't seen that kind of dominant 7-8 inning performance that we've seen from Senga in the past. And then David Peterson is actually turned into probably one of the better left-handed pitchers in the entire game. And Tyler McGill will strike out 10 and leave you bewildered. And then he'll leave you bewildered when he walks, 5 guys out of absolutely nowhere. And we still haven't seen Frankie Montas yet, or Sean Manaea, or even Paul Blackburn yet. I mean, I know that I've been kind of pleasantly stunned that the Mets have pitched so well. Some people in the Mets will tell you, I don't know how, that, we kind of expected some good things. It's like, well, how could you have expected this? But it's truly the reason why the Mets are where they are in the standings is because of their pitching. I mean, Soto struggled. The offense is struggling in key moments. We've outlined that. They would not be where they are without the starters right now.
Yeah, even more impressive given that was like their biggest question mark coming into the season. Laura, how would you evaluate the current stability of the starting staff? There's a lot of moving pieces here.
Yeah, there are a lot of moving pieces here. And, I think when we talk about the best ERA in baseball, that might be a little bit inflated in terms of what they actually have talent-wise, even though this is an extremely talented rotation. As I mentioned earlier, there are some kind of worrying issues. Kodai Senga has been doing well, but also he didn't, he was pitching in a way that indicated to me that maybe he sometimes doesn't have his cutter, doesn't have his fastball, and he's kind of figuring it out. That I think is actually extremely promising because we're seeing Senga had mentioned that he's kind of shifting towards a little bit more data-driven approach to pitching, and so he's pitching smart, which I think is really good. But then you're looking at a guy like Clay Holmes. He's again a converted reliever, even though he started his career as a starter. How long can he go? All that being said, the reserves are coming. So you do have guys like Paul Blackburn who have done very, very well in his rehab appearances. Frankie Montas will be back eventually. Sean Manaea will be back eventually. So while I don't necessarily think that this is sustainable, I do think that once you get these other starters in there, this could again continue to be a really strong rotation.
Yeah, let's stick with Clay Holmes. So he's transitioned well from reliever to starter. He's 5-3 with a 2.98 ERA and just 3 innings shy of setting a career high in innings pitched. Keith, are you concerned about his workload this early in the season?
Yeah, I think you touched on it, Chelsea, is that he's kind of coming up on that big benchmark for him too, which most people might not think is a big deal, but it is a big deal for a guy that has only thrown 60 some odd innings each of the past 3 seasons. He's been a starter before. He knows what it feels like. I don't know if he totally remembers what it feels like, but he knows what is needed from his body, because right now he's pitching great. The other thing too about his body is that, 6'5", 200 and I think about 55, 60 pounds. He can wear that kind of full season endurance on his frame, which is why I think the Mets were interested in somebody like that taking on a challenge of going from reliever to starter. But yeah, there's no doubt, even though the results have been amazing, you want to keep him where he is, keep doing what he's doing. There is no doubt that his body is going to go to a place that it hasn't been in quite a long time. I mean, you can look back, I was a starter in the minors and in high school, but the stress of pitching in the major leagues is obviously in a world of its own. So it's definitely a concern, but I mean, I think that he's tackled it. He came in early in January, wanted to get in good physical shape. He's done everything right. He's really smart. He knows the data when he wants to recover properly. So all the pieces are aligned. It's just a matter of what will happen to that body when he does reach closer to 90, 100 innings.
Yeah, and how he'll manage it. On last week's episode of Mets Off Day Live, Hannah Kaiser suggested that the Mets consider moving Holmes to the bullpen once Manaea and Montas return because of her concern with his innings pitch. So, Laura, is that something the Mets should consider, or should they keep him starting as originally planned?
I think he's too valuable as a starter right now to be put in the bullpen. I just think that he's giving them a lot of value. In addition to that, the Mets could simply they could move to a 6-man rotation, which I think is something they were tending towards anyway at the beginning of the season, in order to preserve Kodai Senga, but also in order to preserve Clay Holmes. You don't want to get into the same situation that you were last year, where we saw Mets pitchers, we saw guys like Sean Manaea and Luis Severino kind of run out of gas because they were reaching kind of the heights in terms of the innings pitched that they've had. So again, the 6-man rotation, save him a little bit down the stretch, sure, absolutely. But I'm also, we talked about kind of Clay Holmes' very data-driven analytical mind. That pairs really, really well with the Mets pitching lab, which, if you heard Luis Severino talk about it this season, was very focused in terms of about recuperation, in terms of maximizing what your body can do. I think if you put all these things together, there are ways to preserve Clay Holmes that'll make him effective down the